Hello and welcome to the Philosopher's Rant. This is the second video in our discussion about democracy. We are starting with certain preconditions that we have to have before we can begin. And the first precondition is trust. I am asking for your trust. I have to say certain things in order to talk honestly about the issues that we're facing, about the problem that we're having. But I can't talk honestly about the problem because doing so causes hurt feelings. In fact, even stating the problem causes hurt feelings. And when people's feelings are hurt, they go on the defensive and stop listening. So the first thing we have to do is have a little trust. And I am asking you to trust me, okay? I'm asking you to trust me in a couple of different ways. I'm asking you to trust that I'm not insulting you or anyone else. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to one-up you or play any games or ask gotcha questions or anything like that. I'm not trying to show that I'm smarter than you. I am asking you to trust that I am telling you the truth. But I'm not going to ask you to do that blindly. I'm not asking you to go on blind faith. We are going to go through a process to determine what truth actually is. I am also need you to trust that I'm not playing political games. We are going to be talking about democracy, and so we are going to talk about politics. But I'm not approaching this from a Democrat or Republican position, okay? I am approaching this from a position of morality and logic, okay? And when you have morality and logic together, you have rationality, okay? Being a rational person requires both logic and morality, and living and participating in democracy requires a person to be rational. In fact, virtually every single theory about democracy says that the constituent, the person that's voting, has to be a rational person. Okay? The reason why rationality requires both logic and morality is because a person can be completely logical and come to a completely immoral conclusion. Okay? On the other hand, if a person is not logical, they can become very gullible and believe certain things are moral when they actually aren't. Now, for full disclosure, I am very liberal. Okay? Now, here's one of those statements that upsets people. Okay? And that this is going to be our first test. And this goes back to the trust issue I mentioned earlier. I am not liberal because I was raised that way. I wasn't. I was raised very conservatively, actually. I am not liberal because of the school I attended. It's not particularly liberal. I had both liberal and conservative professors, and I learned a lot from both groups. I am liberal because of the logical and moral training that I received. Okay? I am liberal because of rationality. And that's where people automatically start to have a problem, because then they think I'm saying conservatives aren't rational. To an extent, I am saying that. That is not to say that some of their positions aren't rational. That is not to say that some of their positions don't have rational components. They do. But for the most part, for myself, I am liberal because of rationality. And I'm going to go into why that is in much more detail later on in another video, and probably a couple of other videos. But I am only bringing this up now because I don't care what a Democratic or Republican position actually is. it's not the position itself that makes me vote for someone. It's whether or not the position is rational. Meaning, does the position conform to logic, evidence, and morality? If it does, I'm for that person. If it doesn't, I'm not. Okay? Now we're going to go into this next concept a little bit later in another video. But everyone has a bias, okay? And I was trained to state my biases up front, which is why I'm saying that I'm very liberal. But there's a difference between having a bias and being biased, okay? The bias I have is rationality. But being rational does not make one biased, okay? And we're going to go into that distinction later. To conclude, for right now, the purpose of this video is simply to ask that you trust me as we go through this process, okay? I will be posting another video later tonight on some of the other preconditions for this discussion. And until then, I hope you have a good day. Talk to you later.